Hi readers. Thank you for joining me for another read along. We are going to be reading from Time for Kids, and this issue has a really great article on graphic novels. So I'm going to share my screen with you and then we will read together. I think graphic novels have become so popular because so much meaning is shared through the illustrations. And it's just really fun to read. You can make so many inferences with the words and the speech bubbles and thought bubbles and the action that the illustrator writes about. So here's our cover. Of course, it's Time for Kids. The title is right here. Read with me. Ready? Read. Inside the Rise of Graphic Novels. TFK reports on this booming business. That's kind of interesting to think about these books being part of a booming business. We don't talk about that a lot at school, but that is part of what's happening. People are selling these books and they're getting more and more popular. Let's open up to the inside here. Remember that on the first page in Time for Kids, we have a lot of brief stories, brief short stories. And then if we keep going, we see the cover feature, and this relates to business. Business is the act of making money. I will try to make this a little bit bigger. It's been a while since I've recorded. Okay, here we go. So you remember that when we read nonfiction, you can let your eyes move across the page. Find out what's interesting to you, what's going on. We've got our power words, genre, and prestigious. Okay, I'm ready. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to read the captions, subtitles. So this is a nonfiction article, but the pictures and the captions that go with it are in the style of a graphic novel. And a novel is fiction. It's something somebody made up from their imagination. Let me zoom in. You could just start reading the article, but I like to read the captions first. Okay. TFK's Shay Muntz learns about a new wave of graphic novels for kids that's changing the way people think about comics. Okay, the title is, Wow, It's a Real Comic Craze. And this was, meanwhile, at the bookstore. Okay, and then I see a heading here, then and now. It's our ace reporter, Shay Muntz. Real reading. Go up to the top here. I used to think that graphic novels were all about superheroes. Until one day. Wait a second. It's called New Kid. Now I realize that they can be about anything. And the dog is thinking, who's she talking to? Okay, so I'm making a couple connections. When I think of the word comic, I think of superheroes. I also think of Archie comics. I know some of you guys know those. But I do know that I've read a few graphic novels with my kids at home, and so I'm familiar with that genre too, that the comics and the graphic novels are not just about superheroes. Okay, let's read together. I do want you to try to read along with me. You can whisper read, move your mouth, or just read out loud with me. But do try to read and follow along with me in whatever way you feel most comfortable. Here we go. Ready? Read. When Rena Telgemeier was a kid in the 1980s, she fell in love with comics. They were the perfect combination of all the things I liked: characters and stories and humor and artwork, she told Time for Kids. But she had a problem: a shortage of reading material. Two types of comics were widely available to kids. There were comic books about superheroes, but those weren't her thing. She wanted comics that told stories she could relate to as an ordinary kid. And there were newspaper comic strips. Telgemeier loved some of them, especially Calvin and Hobbes, but she wanted more. Okay, so let's stop and think about what did Rena Telgemeier like about comics. Okay, so she liked the combination of good characters, interesting characters, a fun story, humor, and artwork. She also had knowledge of the superhero comics and then the short comic strips that were in newspapers. At around 10, she started drawing her own comics. 23 years later, she published Smile. It's about Telgemeier's middle school experiences with braces and dental surgery. Before Smile was published in 2010, it wasn't clear the book would succeed. People in the publishing industry had doubts. They figured kids wouldn't enjoy a graphic novel about an average girl. Okay, I'm going to stop here and talk about this phrase, publishing industry. So that is the business, the company that creates books. That's what we see. When we think of books and authors, we just see these published books and kind of almost forget about them. Authors are real people, just like you and me. And then this publishing company and the group of publishing companies is the industry. They sell the books. They're the ones in charge of getting the books out there into stores and online stores, to libraries, and they want to sell a lot of books. That's a good thing. So they had doubts that this book would not sell well. They're kind of taking a risk on it. Okay, read along with me. Ready? Read. They were wrong. Smile became a #1 bestseller. Since then, Telgemeier has published several more popular graphic novels. There are more than 18 million copies of her books in print. Telgemeier's success has made a big impact. Industry experts say she paved the way for many more graphic novels for kids. So she took a risk in writing it. She wrote, a personal story using a genre that she likes. And the company took a risk in sharing her book and publishing it, and it really paid off. Okay, let's keep reading. Ready? Read with me. Then and now. Comics have been around since at least the 19th century. Traditional comic books are short. Often, they're about adventure or superheroes. Comics have this history of either being very funny and silly or having a lot of punching of things, Gina Gagliano says. She works on graphic novels at Random House. That's a publishing company. Today's graphic novels are different. Authors use comics to tell a book-length story. It can be any genre. It can be realistic. Okay, so you could have a nonfiction comic book. You could have fiction. Of course, that's more popular, comic book. Random House is the name of the company that this woman works at. And traditional, that can mean like something that happens over and over again. It becomes a tradition. Sometimes it also refers to, and I think they're using it this way here, as classic or popular a long time ago. Okay, let's keep reading. Ready? Read with me. In 2018, sales of graphic novels for kids and teens jumped by more than 50%. Compare that to sales of printed books across all categories. They increased by about 1%. Okay, so is 50% more or less than 1%? So way more. So these graphic novel books became very popular and they sold very well. Ready? Read with me. Real reading. As sales boom, attitudes about comics are changing. This year, New Kid became the first graphic novel to win the Newbery Medal. That's a prestigious award in children's literature. New Kid author Jerry Craft says that when he was a kid, he read mainly comics. He knew some adults didn't approve. In certain schools, if they saw you reading a comic, they would confiscate it because they thought it was rotting your brain, he says. They didn't realize the amount of imagination and storytelling and vocabulary in these comics. New Kid's Newbery shows what many kids already understood. Graphic novels are real books. It's a victory for all graphic novels, Kraft says, by Shay Montz. Okay, prestigious. Say that with me. Prestigious. Prestigious. This is one of those words you kind of just have to remember, prestigious. It's an adjective, that means it describes a noun. The noun in this sentence is the award. Prestigious means important and respected. It's a really big deal. It's an amazing award to get. And what did his teachers think about him, the author Jerry Craft, reading comics? They didn't like it. Confiscate, I think I said it incorrectly before. Confiscate means to take away and keep from someone. And they took these books away because they thought it was rotting his brain. Some people still have that opinion. It's not true. I think it can grow your brain because of the imagination that the author shares with you, but also the imagination that you have to use and the vocabulary. You will learn so many words by reading graphic novels, words that wouldn't be in other chapter books. So if you like graphic novels, you should be very proud of yourself. If you have time, I would love for you to search around the internet and look for some of these books by Telgemeier, or look for New Kid. See if it's anywhere for free online and just try reading a few pages. And then maybe dabble in writing your own comic book. You can share it with us at school next year. All right. Thank you for reading with me, and I will see you next time.